Hello everyone, this is Sachin again, and today we'll be discussing about SSL configuration, basically setting up your Kafka using SSL. So let's get started. Um, as usual, I have divided this video tutorial into two portions. The first we'll be discussing about the architecture concepts and theory session, and which will be followed by with the practical or in hand um, applying scripts, how to configure. Okay, so once you um, all right. So once you have this Kafka broker, um, and let's say you have a certificate authority. So by default, if you're like setting up in production, there will be a valid, a well-known certificate authority should be available. But for our demo purpose, we'll be like creating this key and cert file. So this yellow boundary, it defines your certificate authority. All it has is for this demo is ca.key, which is a certificate authority key file. It's a private key, and .cert is a public key. So which means private key has to be within this boundary, cannot be shared to anyone else. Rather like a certificate file, it's okay to distribute. It's meant, it's like it's a public key. Anyways, getting back to this. So basically the very first thing we need to do is create a key store and a trust store. Now, once you have certificate authority, Kafka, key store, and trust store, the very first step is to import the ca.cert into your trust store. So that's step number one. Now, once this is done, using the key store as an input, you need to create a file called kafka.unsigned certificate. Why unsigned? Because this is just created using key store. It is not yet signed by the certificate authority. So now to sign this from a certificate authority, you need to send this file to CA. CA in turn will use its private key and a public key, use this file and produce a signed certificate file. So after this step, you have a signed certificate which is ready to be imported into your key store. So this is your step number 3. Now, before importing into key store, all you need to do is the certificate authority, the cert, you need to store, you need to import into your key store. And once this step 4 is done, the last step is basically to import the signed certificate which you have got from CA into your key store. So now by this time you have a key store and trust store ready. All you need to do is to bootstrap your Kafka and provide the location for key store and trust store. So now this defines the whole setup. Let's see it with a working in hand scripts. All right, so we have already seen the architecture setup, how to configure SSL in Kafka. Let's see it with an example. Okay, so I'm currently in this particular folder, Run Kafka, and the same is open in my IntelliJ, and I will be creating this certificate authority and key store and trust from this location. So let's get started. Okay, so because I'll be using some variables, this current folder I'm assigning into this variable script dir, which points to the same folder which I'm currently in. And because we will be accessing Kafka using a name, because we are configuring SSL, it's not a good idea to access it with the local host. So let's provide a meaningful name. Using that, we can access to Kafka. So for that, what I've done is in my host file, this is my current IP address of this machine. I'm giving it an alias, so we can basically, I can ping that machine using this meaningful name, and it points to my IP address. Anyway, so for that to work, I'm also assigning it to a variable machine alias. These two variables I'll be using in upcoming scripts. So I'm basically assigning these into these variables. Perfect. So now the next step is basically I'm just creating a temporary folder and .temp/SSL so that I create all this stuff over there. So let me clear this directory. So right now this is empty. Now what next step we will be doing is to create the certificate authority, basically ca.key and a ca.cert file. So we will use OpenSSL command, and in this temp SSL ca.key, this will get created. Now if I list cell that ca.key is there. If you want to see the content of it, you see that private key has been created. All right, so now once key is available, the next step is to create a cert, ca.cert, and for that we will be using this command. So it will take the ca.key as an input, private key, and produce the certificate. Now if I hit enter, it'll ask a couple of information like my country code, and then environment, and basically the common name and email address. I don't want to fill it right now in this tutorial. So what I have done is basically just echoing this information, and once this command gets executed or separated by pipe, it will pre-fill all that information for us and just finally create a ca.cert file. So before hitting this command, I just want to bring your notice the most important thing is a common name over here. This is the name which will be associated with the certificate. So make sure if you are accessing let's say this Kafka broker, whatever name, this name should match with this. And my plan is to basically accessing it with mylocalmachine.com, and that's why I have assigned machine alias with this value. All right, so now if I hit enter, my ca.cert has been created. If you just want to see the content of it, this is certificate. All right, so by this time I have a key and a cert is already created. Now the next step is basically to create a key store and trust store. So what I'm going to do here is issue this command. I'm echoing 1234556. This is going to be the password for this trust store, keeping it simple for this demo. All it does is it creates a truststore.jks file and also import ca.cert. So basically these two steps are done together. This one, creating trust store and importing .ca.cert file. Hit enter. Now we list, we will see the trust store has been created. Perfect. Now the next step is to create a key store. Let me clear my screen, and this command using key tool key store, it will create kafka.keystore.jks. You give an alias localhost and finally give SAN, I think it stands for alternate name, machine alias. So now you hit enter, and then you see the kafka.keystore.js file is created. Now what next we are going to do here is we will, using this key store, will create unsigned.cert, and eventually using the ca.key and ca.cert file, certificate authority will produce this kafka.signed.cert file. So let's see the step number 2 and 3. Before that, let's clear the screen. So now my next command will basically using the key store, and then the output will be in kafka.unsigned.cert. So now if you list, this cert has been created. Now pretend that this cert has been given to CA, and the CA who has the private key and public key, it will use that key and use this unsigned cert and produce a signed certificate. All right, so the ca.cert it will use, ca.key it will use, and it will use also Kafka unsigned cert as an input file, and it will produce the output as kafka.signed.cert file. Enter. All right, so now my signed certificate has been created. So which means this step 3 is done. Now the step 4 and step 5 is remaining. So clear the screen, and the step 4, I'm using ca.cert file and importing it into a kafka.keystore.js. Basically this particular step, this guy is step number 4. All right, so CSR has been imported into a key store. Okay, and now the last step is remaining, which means the signed certificate which C has given us, the Kafka signed certificate, we are importing into key store. That's it. So now I have everything available. So now, the only thing for setting up Kafka is needed your kafka.keystore.js and kafka.truststore.js. Pretty much these key store and trust store file, which is now set. All right. So because I just wanted to show you that how it works, everything I've already coded into this scripts, run Kafka SSL, whatever command I have shown, that already over here, it already uses the Docker Compose SSL file. Don't worry, I'll commit it into Git repository, provide the link into this tutorial. So all I'm gonna do here is I'm using Bitnami images to start Zookeeper and Kafka, which has dependency on the Zookeeper, and there are 2 ports, okay, and the volumes is mounted. So basically inside my Bitnami Kafka config certs will point to this particular directory where these key store and trust store is available. Okay, now I have 2 ports, 39092, which I'm using for plain text communication, 39093 for SSL communication. And if you see over here, in this configuration, security protocol mapping, the external is a plain text is a plain text, and external SSL is an SSL. So basically, 9092 is a plain text and 9093 is an SSL. All right. And because 39092 points to 9092, which means if I access if you see advertise listener, if we access with my machine 39092, which points to 9092, it's a plain text communication, and 39093, which maps to 9093, this guy, which means it's an SSL communication. All right. So all I'm going to do here is I will delete this temporary directory because that was just used for demo purpose. All I'm going to do here is take this script and run it. All right, now before I run it, I want to watch docker ps-. I want to watch all my containers. Okay, I have existing container running, but this script will take care, it will delete if there is any existing container there, clean up all the data and recreate everything. So once after that, we will see that the temporary folder has been created. Okay. Okay, let me give my Mac password. The password is only used to set up the etc host file for that machine alias. You have seen it. That's the only thing this script actually, and that's why it needs my password. Okay, hit enter. Now you see everything is automated. It's gonna delete these containers and generate these certificates. And once after that, it'll do a Docker compose. So which means that Zookeeper and Kafka will be up. And then finally, it prints some starting logs and finally says that by this time, your Zookeeper and Kafka is already running. And we see 39092, which is a plain text port, and 39093 is an SSL port. All right, so now let's proceed further. We are almost done. Now, now this is my Mac machine. Let's focus on the top 2 windows over here. Now, what I'm gonna do is I'm connecting to 3909 for the plain text port. And by the way, I'm allowing access via plain text also, so that we will demonstrate the SSL part as well. But I'm just for information, using plain text also we can access this cluster. If you say no, you cannot access using plain text. It will force to access via SSL only. Anyway, so I'm gonna connect and I'm just gonna list all the topics currently there because it's a fresh broker. Of course, there is no topic. So let's create a test topic. Now the second command, test topic 1, it'll use Kafka topic, connect to 39092 and create with one partition, one replica, and this particular topic. Let's hit enter. All right, so this says create topic. Now again, I am going to list these topics. So this topic is successfully created. Perfect. Now let's produce some messages over here. So all I'm going to do here is this particular topic, and I'm starting a console producer connecting to the plain text port. So far there is no SSL. I'm just accessing it as a normal Kafka program. Okay, I'm just saying message 1, message 2, something like that, message 3. So these 3 messages have been produced to this Kafka, and let's consume these messages. So on the right side, I have a consumer. I'm just assigning the same topic name using console consumer, connecting it to 39092, which is again a plain text port, and consume these messages. All right, so we see that we can you can just produce message on the left and it comes on the right. So there is nothing SSL so far. Let's now access it using SSL. Now all I'm gonna do is going to history and putting the same command, but this time instead of 92, I am accessing it using the port 9090. Of course, it will result into an error because I'm not providing any credentials, any kind of a key store or trust store. Definitely will not allow me to access the Kafka broker. So how I can access it? It's very simple. While when I have written the script, I'm also producing some kind of a properties file. It's just a client SSL configuration properties. Well, I'm echoing some kind of an information over here. So let's see just a directly output of that client SSL host.properties. Give whatever name you want it, as long as you put these key value pair. So this is bootstrap server. So now I'm giving 39093 using 39093 port. I'll access, which is an SSL port. This is a protocol, and I also have to provide my trust store and key store location and the credentials, the correct credentials for this. So once you provide this information, all you need to do is now access this same command gave error last time. All you need to do is just say consumer.config and the path of this file. Just copy the path and paste it over here. All right, so now we see that this connects to 39093 port, which is a SSL port, and then if I produce any new message, you can still see that message coming on the consumer side. Hope you have enjoyed this video. If it is, please do like and share with your friends so that I can create more such videos like that. Thanks for watching, and happy learning.